Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. The time is now 3:22 p.m. and I'm calling this academic Senate meeting at Santa Barbara City College to order. I profusely apologize for starting this meeting late. Both the Vice President of the Senate, Ana Garcia, and myself were in a meeting that we could not leave, a very important hiring committee meeting that we had to finalize. And please know that we were doing good work there. And so that is why we are a little bit late today. So I'm glad to walk into a meeting where everybody's talking and chatting and having a good time. So we'll share the Senate agenda with you all. So typically I start by highlighting one of the academic Senate community values that I think needs to be a point of, I don't know, focus or mindfulness for all of us as we engage in the meeting and the conversations. So I think as I wrap up my own tenure as academic Senate president, and I'm keenly aware that there's only 4 meetings left with me. So this week, next week, and then the first 2 weeks in May. I am starting to really feel like my time is running out. I have to finalize all the things. And so with that in mind, we have a lot of work to do today. And so I think the one I would like to share with you all and highlight is number 6, which is ask ourselves, why am I talking? Why aren't I talking? And both of those fall under that WAIT acronym. So as individuals, we should be mindful of taking up more space than others. On the same note, we should empower others to speak up when others are dominating the conversation. Amplify unheard or overlooked voices while being mindful of unnecessary reiterations of previously mentioned points. And I really think that that last one can really save us some time at the Senate meeting, which is be mindful not to unnecessarily reiterate something that's already been said. It's always good to elevate and amplify what somebody says, but then at the same time, if there seems to be a consensus or close to a consensus, it's also not necessary to do that as well. So our Zoom meeting guidelines, I know many of you are so used to this. If you're a member from the public, you can contribute during public comments. I'll get to that on the agenda item in a moment. If you are a member of the Senate or an invited guest, if you would like to contribute to the meeting, please raise your virtual hand. I cannot see, will not see your actual hand being raised. Oh, and please keep yourself muted during the meeting until you're called on to speak. So the agenda, we have no timed items today. So the agenda will be, I got 2 hours of sleep last night, everyone. So it's going to be an interesting Senate meeting for us today. We will go through the agenda as posted and distributed with no items being taken out of order. Which brings me to item 3.1, which is our public comment period. The Senate allows public comments at the beginning of the meeting at this agenda item and before each of our different discussion items or action items later in the agenda. And I hopefully will remember to ask for public comment then. So if you would like to address the Senate at this time on any topic, please indicate you would like to do so by raising your virtual hand, and then you can address the Senate once called on. Okay. Is it? I'm not sure who it is, so I'm not sure whether it's Andrea or Andrea.
It's Andrea.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi. Sorry, I'm connected via my phone, so that's the delay regarding the raised hand.
No worries. So go ahead.
Oh, right now. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is the right time. I have some comments regarding the proctorio versus respondus switch. Is this the right time to talk about it?
It can be either. So you can you can provide your comment now, and we'll take that into consideration, or prior to discussing item 8.1, I'll call for public comment on that agenda item then. So it's entirely up to you.
Okay, it seems to me later would be better, but could you give me a rough idea when that would be? Is it like going to be a half hour or an hour?
Definitely not a half an hour, but probably it's at the top of our agenda, so not quite an hour. So I would say
Okay.
back after a half an hour if you're going to check out. Does
Okay.
that work?
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, I'll stay on. I just have to make sure because I have to be somewhere at a certain time. Yeah.
Well, good. Understand that.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there anyone else for public comment at this time? And I'm seeing none. Okay, President's report. So a couple of things. Right, didn't get attached. I had a written report and it didn't get attached, and that is totally my fault. And I also have some oral reports anyway, so I'll just share with you on my screen my written report, and I'll attach it as an addenda item. No, as an addendum. So that you have it. All right. New share my Safari. All right, there we go. It's very short written report, but I wanted it in writing. So I didn't have to say it out loud, but here we go. Guided pathways. The team has finalized the scale of adoption self-assessment, and it has been approved through a system called NOVA. So Margaret reached out to both Dr. Murillo and myself on Saturday, mentioning that it had been submitted. And so Dr. Murillo and myself went in and approved it. And so for this year, that let's call it an administrative step has been completed, which is exciting. And also Margaret wanted to make sure, or mention in the email, wanted to highlight the work of those that contributed to it. So please make sure you see the many names on this list: Dr. Scott, Wilma Arnold, Jens Kuhn, Christina McGuire, Justina Buller, Guire Schuyler, Lee Chang, and Kim Monda. So thank you for everyone for contributing to that work. I am currently chairing the hiring committee for the administrative assistant for the Academic Senate. So that's exciting. We have some candidates that we will be interviewing next week, and then hopefully we can get that person hired right at the start of Melanie's presidency, and then that person will be in place to help her and whomever is on the Senate get all the things done. Okay, so those were my only two written items. The report about guided pathways was attached to the agenda, and so I wanted to mention that. So if you wanted to look at what was reported to the Chancellor's Office system, NOVA, it's there for your review. Now the things that I wanted to tell you through an oral report by the Senate President. Last week, when we discussed the need to perhaps go out for 3 ADN positions instead of just 2, and the Senate approved that, I mentioned that Sarah Orr was leaving us for Westmont, and I received that information from somewhat of an official authority, and as such, I thought it was well known, and that's why I just mentioned it in passing. I was trying to highlight that Sarah is leaving and this cannot be, and I mentioned it, and I didn't realize that that is actually incorrect. So please let the record show that Sarah Orr's resignation is not her moving on to Westmont. This came to light because she emailed me in the channels, newspaper writer, he's here, he's at every meeting, Eric, and let us know that that wasn't correct. And asked for it to be corrected so that, you know, people don't say like, oh, Westmont, to her, and she's going, what? I'm not going to Westmont. And also I apologized profusely to her and said, I'm sorry, I'm the bad source. I'm the one, you know, with the lies. And so I just wanted to correct that. And just so you all know, Sarah was very, you know, nice about it and charming, and she laughed and she was like, I just don't want people to think that I'm going to Westmont, because I'm not, right? So please don't read too much into this. Just, I said something that wasn't correct because somebody told me that, and yeah, that's how rumors get started, as they say. Okay, I was contacted by a Mr. Andrew Garcia. He contacted me on behalf of something called the Good to See You Project. I will share with senators so that they can share this out. The Good to See You Project is actually an art installation project that will be all around Santa Barbara City College campus. And it's a really cool process. They're using basically copper metal sheeting and printing photographic images onto them and allowing some parts of the copper to oxidize and others to not, to develop the picture onto the copper. And then they are putting those copper pieces all around campus, so that as you are interacting with the environment and enjoying our campus, there are friendly campus faces around. So Mr. Garcia actually reached out to me because there's actually a number of students participating, and he was hoping that he could get my help getting more faculty photos, administrators, staff, and so on. So please do put this in front of your faculty. This is a great way to, I think, create a beautiful space on our campus, create community in this continued social distance way, and support a really cool project and an art piece, and also an inspiring artist, or actually a full-on artist, to have this project come to fruition. So please make sure you send in your photo. The due date is by April 27th. So by next week, our Senate meeting, please have you or other faculty send in your photo. I am going to send a faculty-wide email after the meeting today, soliciting and promoting a call for ASCCC State Academic Senate statewide service. Now is the time where they are recruiting for statewide committees. There are several of interest that all of us could find something, I would argue. I put my name in right away, and I chose a couple committees that are of special interest to me, and you put in your ranked choice, and then where they need, you know, faculty, they kind of, you know, even things out. So you might not get your top choice. But I would highly encourage everybody. I know we all feel overwhelmed, and I know we're doing all the things, but I would encourage everybody, senators, faculty at large, to, oh, and Christina's telling me, I think I skipped the minutes. I'll go back to that then, Christina, thanks. I'm just seeing that note. I would encourage everybody to, you know, at least look at the committee list, think about what you might find interest in. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I find the work at the State Academic Senate level really exciting. I felt very marginalized by our local academic senate. And so then when I was coming on as president-elect and I went to the state plenary, I felt like I was with like-minded people, and I was hearing things that affirmed notions I had about whatever was happening on our campus. And I felt as though it was informative, I felt as though it was progressive, and all of those things. So that's why I'm so emphatic about getting our faculty at SBCC at the state level in meaningful ways. I'll also say that you can use that statewide service as your campus service requirement. It is in our, I believe it's the AP for faculty that calls out the different types of service that that all full-time faculty must engage in. And everybody thinks of our local committees on campus, but state and national committees can also fulfill that service. So if you're feeling like, you know, you can't do that because you're doing this on campus, please consider also doing that. I also think it's healthy for our college to get those get outside information. I think sometimes our campus tends to be a little, I'll use the word recursive. And so having new voices engage in this work, bringing their knowledge back to the Senate is definitely a very good thing. So anyways, I'll stop there. And I think what we should do is finish our report section of our agenda, and then I'll go back to the minutes. So I mentioned before, and I'll mention again, I'm running on 2 hours of sleep. So today's going to be an interesting meeting. And yeah. So the next item will be our Senate liaison report. Senate liaison, any oral reports for the Senate at this time? If yes, please just unmute yourself and go. Okay, no one's doing that. So that brings us to our Executive Vice President report. Dr. Scott, have anything for us this week?
You know, I would like to update you all just briefly on the Chief Instructional Officers Conference, if that's appropriate. Okay, I got home late Friday. I didn't get it written up, but I'll just share a few things. And if you need me to write it up, I can do that. I went to the Chief Instructional Officers Conference last week. It was the first in-person meeting, so it was actually really interesting. There's just a few highlights I wanted to tell you about. They did report that as a system, we're down about 25 to 30% in enrollment since COVID. They called it, when the Chancellor's office spoke to us, they called it a generational crisis. And for some schools, it's even worse than that because they've had such severe financial aid fraud problems. We've been fortunate not to have that situation, but for some, it's been really devastating. They talked about the need to do outreach to our adult learner population. Of course, we need to outreach to high schools, but reaching out to our adult learners, they feel that's a population that the colleges really haven't addressed adequately. And I wouldn't disagree with that because we have so many people in our community that have some college or no college and could really benefit from coming here. They talked about our budget considerations and realizing that, you know, if they go back to the way that we're supposed to be funded according to the funding formula, the bottom's going to fall out for most of us, and they really do have to restructure how they're funding us. So that I believe that they will do that, but that's hanging out there. There was a lot of talk about digital equity and making sure that we're providing technology for our students who can then choose the modality that's best for them, but they shouldn't be choosing a modality based on the fact that they have or do not have technology. There was a lot of information about legislation. There's a number of backlogged bills, and they got backlogged partly because of COVID, and they're coming through. A lot of them are coming through right now. The main ones have to do with financial aid reform. SB 1746 was discussed. Undocumented student access was another important one, and SB 1141. Equitable placement and supports. There was a lot of talk, which I'll go into in a second, about AB 1705. Expansion of basic needs. They feel that there's a lot of students who need more help than we've been, not that we haven't been providing, but students don't know where to go or they don't know how to get that help. And support for part-time faculty. There were two California Assembly aides there. One was Medina's aide, and Medina is the chair of the Higher Education Committee. And the other one was Jackie Irwin's aide. And I think probably most of you will remember that Jackie Irwin was one of the primary sponsors or writers of AB 705. There was they did talk quite a bit about this. They feel that there are uneven approaches to AB 705 across the system, that it's an equity issue. Anyways, this aide, I won't say they, it was this aide in his office, feel that our Black, Latinx, low-income students are more likely to choose remedial education, and that this is really an equity issue. They say that tens of thousands of students have now got through college level math and English because of AB 705. They do recognize that the success rates are lower, or in some cases lower, but that we're still getting through a lot of students who would never otherwise have got through. They talked about providing support for contextualizing CTE, math and English, knowing that that may not be the standard college level math and English may not be the best options for those students. And they also did recognize that students coming out of high school are not always prepared for calculus-based coursework, and that's something that they have to figure out. Let's see. And they did say that they know that AB 1705 is very prescriptive, and they wrote it specifically for that reason. They wrote it that way on purpose. There were a couple of good speakers. Diego Navarro was there talking about how we need to move from a culture of threat that our students feel to a culture of dignity, and talked about the trauma that our students face and how trauma continues to be triggers for students to have issues with learning. And anyways, I'll leave that there. Diego Navarro is speaking at the Guided Pathways event next week for those of you that are going, and he spoke here. They had an LGBTQ speaker who was very good, Dr. Joshua Moon Johnson. I didn't realize that he'd been at UCSB, and he works for one of the California community colleges now, but he was very good and said that we really do need to do more in this area. We need to think about our LGBTQ students when we think about awards, scholarships, curriculum, and I would agree with that. Also, if we can include it in bystander training, and be sure to include it in our Title IX efforts. And I was happy to see that we're starting a club, so that was great. I think that's all I'll share about that, and I can write it up if you think that's important. And I'll just finish with saying that I think you all know that commencement is May 13th at 5 o'clock. I really look forward to seeing all of you there. I mean, it's really actually exciting that we get to do this in person and have a live event. So I hope that you all are excited about it and that you're talking about it. And I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Kathy. Any questions for Kathy? Okay, sounds good. And actually, when I called on Kathy, I thought she might mention it and she didn't. And so I'll mention it. Kathy and I will be having a department chairs meeting on Friday. The really great idea came out of department chairs meeting to have the first hour be faculty only. It's very rare on campus to have a faculty only space. One of our, academic senate, which is where a lot of work gets done, is a Brown Act committee. So it's rare to have that time together. So the first hour will be, quote, faculty only. I will be leading that discussion. And then the second hour is when Dr. Scott will be joining us and other administrators, and then we'll have a more formalized agenda. So it was the direction of Dr. Scott to have more frequent department chair meetings. And so next year, we're going to try and have those be pre-scheduled ahead of time so that it's a set time every Friday, once a month, people know, so that as department chairs come in, it's just normalized that that's when the department chair schedule is. I think that that's going to be huge for communication at our school. Okay, so item 5.4, there were no requests to agendize items for the Senate at future meetings. Okay, so going back, because I overlooked it, item 4.1, the meeting minutes from the regular meeting on April 13th. They have been posted and distributed. We can accept them as posted, unless anyone would like to offer edits or corrections at this time. Hearing and seeing none, we will accept the meeting minutes from April 13th as posted and distributed. Which brings us to our consent agenda. One of the best parts about this job, last week I said that this job is a terrible job as Academic Senate President with a capital T. And this week I will share that one of the best parts of this job is to celebrate faculty in a number of ways. And one way is through our Faculty Excellent Award, where nominees are, where candidates, nominees' names and the reason why they're being forwarded is given to our sabbatical leave and faculty recognition committee for review and recommendation to the Senate. So that work has been done. So thank you to Chair Darren Gerard for that work, leading that work. And so many of, hopefully all of these award winners are here at this meeting with us. So this year's Faculty Excellence Award winners are the man himself, Darren Gerard, Natalie Goebbels, Melissa Menendez, Matt Mooney, and Sarah Orr. So in this time of Zoom meetings, it is very hard for us to celebrate things, but please find an emoji, unmute yourself, let these amazing fellow faculty members know how much we appreciate their hard work on campus. And we see you, we acknowledge you, we celebrate you, and we are so glad that you are our colleagues.
I just want to say Melissa is something of a miracle maker in our department. So really happy to see her being recognized.
Miracle maker. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, so many of you are inspiration. Cool. So thank you for that. I don't think I see Sarah or, yeah, anyways, yeah. Matt Mooney's not with us, I don't think. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's the best part of this job. And by the way, best part of my job, and Darren does all the work, and then I'm the one that gets to do it. So those are the folks that are winning it, and I guess, or have been recommended to have it. And I'm screwing all the things up today. I really need to get sleep tonight, you guys. It's not official until we accept it on our consent agenda. Consent agenda we haven't done yet, technically. So the other thing that is on our consent agenda is item 6.3. So through our program review process, our requests for equipment, non-computer, it's going to be a wild meeting. Non-technology requests equipment gets routed to Senate Subcommittee Planning and Resources, where they rank those resource requests that are linked to their program review for the ranking onto Senate, and then from Senate goes on to CPC for final acceptance, and then by the end of May, budget codes are hopefully given out for however many items can be allocated funds for. So they did their ranking, they separated new equipment and replacement equipment. And so those two documents for your review have been posted and distributed on our consent agenda. And so at this time, now that I've gone over the consent agenda items, I would love to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as whole, as these two items together. If either item needs to be discussed by the Senate, so remember, we don't discuss consent agenda items, either needs to be discussed before this motion is made. Somebody please ask to remove one, and then it will get placed at the end of our agenda for discussion before motion to approve or to reject it. So
I move to approve the consent agenda items as posted.
thank you, Jenny. Did you get as little sleep as I did?
Maybe 2 hours more than you.
Oh, the end of the semester is in sight, I promise. Okay, so a motion has been made to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Trisha.
Thank you, Trisha. Okay, and so we will go to a roll call vote. So your votes are yay or yes, nay or no, or you may abstain, which is a non-vote. Benjamin Reyes,
Yes.
Counselor Jen,
Yay.
Ellen,
Yes.
Jenny,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes.
Dee Dee,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Jess,
Yay.
Robbie,
Yes.
Ruth,
Yes.
Tara,
Yes.
Russell, okay, he usually takes a long time, but not this long. Okay, so Trisha
Yes.
and Anna.
Yeah.
Okay. Consent agenda passes. Thank you, everyone. Congrats again, faculty, excellent award winners. Yeah, enjoy. Okay, bringing us to our information items. Okay, item 7.1, Ruth, please update us on where the Academic Senate Division Senator election is.
Okay, just a warning, you're gonna hear my dog crying. He needs to be walked. Anyway, so nominations closed today for Academic Senate Division Senators. These are full-time, these are eligible candidates, have to be full-time faculty members, basically on tenured track. We had 6 divisions with an open position. That's the English Division, Educational Support Division, Health and Human Services Division, School of Modern Languages, ESL Division, Sciences Division, and the Technologies Division. And there were two actually, who did not get anyone a nominee. And those were Health and Human Services Division and the Sciences Division. However, every other division did have one nominee put forward, and that has been public since the nominations closed at noon. We did get a few candidate statements coming in. Sometime tomorrow, I will send out the ballots to, depending on if it's a first position or second position. So first position would be to the department chairs. For the second position, it's by plurality vote. And I believe that is all I have to say.
Thank you for that, Ruth.
Mhm.
Okay, item 7.2. So remember that we overhauled our the way we go for grants at this college, or the way that they're announced, or the way that we pull in people into this work by making it more inclusive and more transparent. So with that in mind, on our agenda this week is a Title V grant opportunity for, quote, developing HSI institutions. So there is a 1-page information sheet attached to our agenda that Rachel Johnson from the Santa Barbara City College Foundation created for our review, for our consideration. So that is there. And the other thing that is attached there is the position description for the project director that would oversee this grant. So the grant director. So if you've had interest previously in either being a grant director, a co-director, an activity lead, or otherwise, now is a great opportunity to review this particular Title V grant, the objectives, the look-fors for this funding opportunity. And if you are interested in maybe working with the College Office of Institutional Research, Rachel Johnson from the foundation, now's a great time to do that. So please reach out to Rachel or Z or both and let them know that you would be very interested in being part or the leader of that grant. Okay, so which brings us to item 7.3. an information item from our faculty that went to the ASCCC spring plenary. So I believe Kathy O'Connor went. I know Joy Coons went to a couple of sessions. Tara was our delegate. If Tara went to any of the breakout sessions, I'd love to hear. Kathy O'Connor, and I believe Melanie Eckford-Prosser. So in this week's Google Drive folder for today's meeting, let me show you where to get that. There is on the Senate, Academic Senate Share Drive under our academic year and today's meeting date, 4/20. There is a subfolder called ASCCC Spring Plenary, where the faculty that will share out from their sessions have some information for us to review and to share. So as they reference thing in their report to us, that is where you'll find it. And I'll put the direct link into an email to the Senate after today's meeting. So Tara, Joy, Melanie, Kathy, anybody want to kick us off for sharing out what you worked on? Saw?
I can share. I went to a couple of sessions. I just wrote some stuff out, so I'd be really succinct. I went to the transfer alignment project presentation, just because based on Laura Castro's presentation to our Senate, I wanted to get greater clarity in general and to understand some of the challenges for making a single GE pathway for transfer to the UC and CSU systems. So my takeaway for all of us is that as they make this transition, it's really important that academic advising is really stepping in until the full transition's made to this single pathway, because there's still problems with students getting classes to transfer. And they might be put into one system and then decide they want to be in another system. So the short of it is, if you have a promising student that you're kind of mentoring, make sure that they're contacting their academic advisor to see that all the classes that they're taking are transferring to the system that they want to go to. It could have changed from when they first enrolled. And then my second takeaway, important for many of us, maybe not all of us, is that in the rush to get students through in a timely fashion, there is less emphasis on taking courses for interest, exploration, and enrichment. And this is often a key in the constellation of exposures for students, especially our students, to find their vocational and avocational paths forward. I think this will also affect enrollment, general enrollment for a lot of our courses and maybe our divisions. I know mine especially is affected by this. I also got the heads up that, and we heard about this from Laura too. Laura actually gave us a great presentation, but the legislature is wanting to create this common course numbering system across the community colleges. So that'll present a lot of challenges, but we have enough stuff to worry about now, so we don't need to worry about that one yet. And then I know Tara was at the Open Educational Resources, so I'm sure that she's going to give her usually awesome overview. So again, I'll just give my little takeaways. I attended a webinar after our Senate presentation on inclusive access, just because I came away from our academic Senate conversation with some hesitations about prioritizing inclusive access. And I had been doing that for my art history students. So then I thought, well, ORE or OER is another choice for me. And so I think this dovetails really nicely with our upcoming Senate resolution on instructional costs for students. So I'll begin with the ending. Instructors are legally required to consider cost and necessity of course materials. And instructors should know the exact cost of their materials and put this in their syllabus, plus ideally the schedule of classes. So I know our resolution addresses this, and that's a good thing because that's what they're talking about at the state level. Maybe we're not so good at making sure our colleagues who teach the same section are using textbooks with approximately the same cost. So we need to be really careful about what we're asking students to buy, and including Scantrons, because that's for instructor convenience. So you learn a lot of little things and big things. So one emphasis in this OER was not just personal, sort of like what you can do to make your own course more affordable, but also what the emphasis was to create zero textbook cost degrees and certificates. This is pretty well overwhelming, especially if you're in charge of a degree or certificate area, to try to make it completely charge-free in terms of materials. So my understanding, and Tara can confirm this, is that because it's such a big lift, that the state is putting $115 million towards supporting faculty to do this research on OER sources for courses needed, and looking at the bigger picture of degrees and certificates for zero cost to students the whole way through. It's good to keep in mind that just as textbooks can't be old, we have to keep updating them. We'd need to keep updating our OER materials too. So, the more it's cobbled together, I think the trickier it gets. Especially if multiple instructors are teaching the same section. So the other caveat that they put out there is that if, say, in a basic art history course that we offer 4 sections of, if only one of them is OER, that will get impacted. So they're encouraging us, if we offer OER, that we do it for a few sections. So more students have a chance to get in on that money saving aspect. And then if Tara doesn't put the OER website up for the ASCCC, I can. But I just wanted to say thank you for sponsoring me for that day. I'd never done anything like this before. And I'm happy to report that our ASCCC president is quite funny. She has a really funny sense of humor. So in our age of political correctness and all of that, she's kind of refreshing to listen to. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Joy. And I really appreciate you being interested in going and going. I mentioned earlier, it's been my intention to get as many people engaged at that level as possible, because you learn new things and then you bring them back and then we'll all do better. So it really helps our campus and it's good for professional growth. So thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I would say that, you and our Senate are doing a pretty good job of being informed, but it always helps to hear it twice on a different level, like the state level. So really, it made it stick better for me.
Yeah, completely agree. Okay, great. Thank you. Kathy, Tara, Melanie, anything from your breakout sessions? Am I missing anyone that went? I don't think I am. Breakout sessions, anything to share back?
I wrote mine, but I went to Advancing Authentic Inclusion of Diverse Voices in Governance and Practice in possibly the coldest room. There were people who came in. It was such a good session and left because the room was so damn cold. But it was really the same sort of thing that Joy's saying, lots of things that we're talking about on our campus, but also writ larger and and with suggestions. So you can see there, enact transformational change, and very, very practical. LaTanya Parker was particularly practical on here's the big lofty idea. How do we make this practical? So there you have it.
Awesome, thanks. Kathy or Tara, or shall we move on to resolutions, Tara?
I kind of included some of my workshops in the resolution
Okay,
presentation, so
that's totally okay. We can do yours one and the same.
the twofer.
All right. I like twofers. Okay. All right. Tara, let's move on. Do you need screen sharing
I
privileges?
do.
Okay.
I do.
I am on it. Give me 1 second.
Thanks, Chris. You're always so awesome. All right. All right. Oops. That's my lecture for tomorrow. I guess you guys don't want to learn about forensics. Well, maybe you do.
I mean, I
What's that? Someone was going to respond to my bones. I know it. I know it. So like Ray, I've also apologized a little bit in advance here. I think I had an hour and a half of sleep last night. We are definitely at the end of the semester, for sure. So once again, I want to thank everybody for allowing me to serve as our delegate. I attended the plenary virtually. And I will say that I felt from a virtual perspective, the fall plenary was doing a pretty good job of making sure that the folks in the Zoomer category were included in the plenary, and I kind of felt a little left out in this spring one. So just for future reference, I think it's always better to be there in person when you can. As you can see here, though, from the title or theme, I suppose I should say, of the plenary, there was a real strong emphasis on both racial justice and academic freedom. So a number of the sessions dealt with one or both of these issues. And what is really motivating these conversations is in part some of those assembly bills that Dr. Scott mentioned in her report, because it seems more and more that legislators are really needling and sticking their nose into curriculum in higher education. And this is always a little troublesome, because it might mean that anytime you want to change your curriculum, it's going to have to come by a legislative act. And that's always a little tricky. But likewise, too, there's a national dialogue that is intent on maligning things like critical race theory without really understanding what any of that is. So I found a number of the sessions to be really insightful on how to address both of these issues. So what I would like to share with you all now are some of the highlights from the resolutions, but also to let you know that this year there was an election. So several members on the executive committee, they were reaching the end of their term. And that does include Dolores Davison, who is now the second longest running ASCCC president, but she did not run again. She's intent on retiring. So we're happy for her, but also really sad. So let me just share with you all your new executive committee. Here they all are. And so our new ASCCC president will be Jenny May. Our new vice president will be Cheryl Aschenbach. Continuing on as our treasurer will be Michelle Velasquez Bean. Our new secretary is Latanya Parker. Continuing on as our at-large representative is Juan Arzola. And here it's with both, happiness and sadness. I have to share with you that Robert Stewart, who's been our area C rep, he's now our South rep, which is fantastic. But it does mean we do have a new area C rep. And if you're wondering why I have a solar flare picture, that's because our new area C rep is Eric Reese of Moore Park College. He's in the planetary sciences. And I could not for the life of me, no matter how much I sleuthed, find a picture of him. So I thought maybe this would like a Paleolithic artist painting an animal on a cave. If I paint him as a solar flare, he'll be one. that's my, okay, I have a couple of puns and a couple of jokes in this presentation, but that's one for you. So just make note that we do have a new area C rep, and we look forward to that. Some highlights too from the resolutions. I am very happy to report to you all that we now have 3 new recognized disciplines. The 2 that I felt were really important for our campus were two disciplines that should have been recognized long ago, and that is Asian American Studies and Native American Studies. And as we all know by now, our ethnic studies is quite robust. We offer courses in both of these fields, and ethnic studies is, I think, continually trying to expand its program and to hire new faculty. And this kind of opens up the door too for more candidates. So all of this is really fantastic news. In terms of like a new discipline, nanotechnology is now a new recognizable discipline, which just makes me think of sci-fi. It does, I think of Ant-Man, but that's just me. So that is also some good news. When we look ahead at the resolutions, I'll give you some of the highlights of the resolutions. A series of resolutions, actually, it's 16.03 through 16.05, had to deal with our Rising Scholars Network, which Santa Barbara City College is a part of our Rising Scholars Network. And these are incarcerated students and formerly incarcerated students. And so we at the Senate here, we've been working really diligently in participating in this network. Something as simple as offering correspondence ed at our jail goes a really incredibly long way. And I wanted to share with you all that we really do have the support of the ASCCC for this. So the series of resolutions, if I could kind of summarize what they all said together, was to really support faculty doing professional development on how to best serve both incarcerated students and formerly incarcerated students. And likewise, too, how to somehow work within the parameters of the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, where things like academic freedom have a very different meaning. And so I felt that this resolution is incredibly important and apt for the work that we're doing here at our college, and a steps most certainly in a positive direction. Another resolution that I was very pleased to see happen was to really increase the representation of part-time faculty at the ASCCC. And so resolution 17.02, in addition to really strongly recommending that senates have a part-time senator, but also in addition to that, to have liaisons who aren't necessarily senators, although they might be, to serve as a kind of conduit of communication between their colleges and the ASCCC. Anytime we can have more voices, more perspectives, the better. And we all know how important and valuable our part-time faculty are. So I think this is a very positive recognition. And now for the more hotly contested resolutions. You've reached that point in my presentation. So here is one, and only I would Photoshop a surgical mask on Ben Franklin, but we all have our own fun. So this is a resolution that is really addressing the fact that our community colleges have in fact seen a downturn in enrollment and are reaching, budgetary crises because of a downturn in enrollment. And the easiest solution might be just to increase things like your class size. However, that might not necessarily be the best for students. So this resolution was really to revamp a paper that had been explored in 2012 about, what really is sound pedagogy by class size. When does it become detrimental for classes to be, so large that faculty cannot have a high touch in their class? And also recognizing too, that just as there might be a finite amount of technical equipment that determines your class size, so too is faculty labor. There are only so many students that we can serve before we start having to shortchange them. So this resolution is about revising this paper and also infusing in some new principles that I'll talk about at the end of my presentation from a framework called IDEA. Yeah, I said that right. Oh my God, I'm so tired. Otherwise known as DEIA work. So I will get to that in a moment. I would say the resolution that was the most fiery was this resolution on trying to prevent fraud from online classes. And we heard, Dr. Scott mentioned too at the beginning that a number of schools were experiencing financial aid fraud from students pretending to be students in classes and getting financial aid. And so the resolution for this was really about ensuring identity of who those students are. However, there was also a resolve in this resolution that was really advocating for more monitoring and proctoring software in an online class. And this is where the fireworks came, not only from other delegates at the plenary and other participants, but also there was a student panel at the ASCCC who really spoke out against this one resolved in the resolution. And they named things that we've talked about, and we'll talk about, I think, today, as we continue to get to it on our agenda, about how a number of these monitoring software programs like Proctorial, there's a racial bias when scanning an image to identify who the student is. There are concerns about security in terms of like your data from these companies. And so the students were really very vocal that this resolve be removed, and it was. So this part of that resolution was removed. They need to make sure that we're preventing things like fraud in an online class. That held up, but we can already see here there's a tension point when we're talking about how we monitor students online. So we'll keep that in mind. Another resolution that did generate some discussion was a resolution on offering non-credit courses in Spanish. And I think, as a Hispanic serving institution, this is spot on. This is absolutely something that we should be doing. Cerritos College is probably the best role model. They've done this to really fantastic success, and they have a lot of support from the Chancellor's office. So all of that is very encouraging. So what this resolution is suggesting we do is to work with our local curriculum committees and to revise the course outlines of records to allow this to be a possibility for some of our high demand non-credit courses, particularly things like career skills, to best serve our community. And I think that's a fantastic resolution. Not everybody agreed, but it did pass. So that is where that resolution landed. Here's where the real big, huge fireworks start to go off. And it has to do with a number of resolutions around two assembly bills in particular. And the first is AB 1705 by Irwin, which Dr. Scott was mentioning here at the top. And I will say, even before I start to get into what this resolution was exploring, was that, AB 1705 has been dubbed as the quote unquote cleanup bill of 705. And in this new Assembly Bill 1705, it has identified non-credit as transfer. And so what this essentially would do is it would not allow non-credit courses to offer pre-transfer English or math. And if you're wondering, well, how does that work for somebody in a career skills or in a lifelong learning class or in a CTE class, you should be wondering that. And that's why I have all these images here of the incredible diversity of students that we serve. And I would say that what Irwin is missing is that not every single community college student has a transfer goal. So what this resolution, and I really am sharing with you a lot of the wordage here so you can really get a sense of it, is they're really hoping, because this bill has not been signed into law yet, that some additions and revisions can be made to really remove non-credit from the bill. And so you can see here, they're talking about there have to be some exceptions for when we can offer what we call a pre-transfer level English or math class. And so some of those exceptions might be somebody who is on a certificate or career technical education program path. Likewise, too, there might be some students who are trying to kind of make up some gaps in their education because of COVID and trying to finish high school online. Likewise, too, we have lifelong learners, we have adult learners who are aiming to rebuild skills. There are a lot of reasons why an individual may not want to take algebra right? I think I've made this analogy before. If you're planning a trip to, Beijing, and I say, okay, if you're planning a trip to Beijing, then here, take the Spanish class. It's not really a very good fit to match what your need is. So in addition to this, and here are the very detailed things, but they are in the resolution packet. And I just want to highlight for you the biggest point of contention here is this defining of non-credit as being part of the transfer path, because many of our students who are enrolled in non-credit classes are not necessarily on a transfer path. And that's perfectly understandable if you understand the mission of a California community college. So that's where we land with AB 1705. We'll say the ASCCC is really opposed to AB 1705. And I know legislators feel very differently, but we can have a conversation about this. It's very complicated. Another resolution comes to us by way of our very own Kathy Scott. So I wanted to give a shout out to her for writing a resolution. And this resolution deals with the other assembly bill that folks are really hotly contesting. Only AB 928 has been signed into law. So this is also the work that we've heard from Laura Castro, talking about how there's going to be this merger between the CSU and the UC transfer path. And one of the concerns about this merger is that the UCs will essentially get their way. And so those requirements that were part of the CSU transfer path will disappear. And that includes things like personal development and lifelong learning. So you can see here that this resolution is to really encourage those committees that are helping to try to tweak and define what will become the single transfer pathway, to not lose sight of the value of personal development courses and lifelong learning. And if you're curious what those courses are, in a very small print, there they are. But you could see they also include things like communication. So communication is a requirement for the CSUs, but it's not for the UCs. Sociology classes are listed in there. BMS classes are listed in there. It's a lot of things. And we know that these courses then only enhance student learning and provide them with the ability to really succeed in college. So losing sight of these courses could be rather detrimental. So that's what this resolution is about. I would say what both AB 1705 and AB 928 do in their attempts to be more efficient is we are kind of falling into this factory approach of education. That's essentially what these bills are doing. They're not recognizing that our students are not monolithic. We're human beings, and all of our students have a rather complex set of needs and goals. They're not identical, so why should we treat them as such? I would also say that this only exacerbates disproportional impacts for our students because they're typically not the student in mind when these bills are being written. So that's where our assembly bills land. One last resolution that I want to share with you all, and I promise I'm almost done, but I'm sorry, but I can't. By the way, the resolution packet was 50 pages this time. It was a lot, just double the size of the fall plenary. But this is one that I'm really, truly excited about. There were a number of other resolutions that are very similar to this one, and it is about really infusing IDEA or DEI frameworks into our practices and into our classes. So this is the work presented here that you're seeing by Michelle Velasquez-Bean, and the ASCCC has adopted the acronym IDEA. It used to be IDEA with one A, now it's IDEA with two A's, because they have added into it anti-racism. And I think that's a very incredible and important addition. So it stands for inclusion, diversity, equity, anti-racism, and accessibility. The California Chancellor's Office is endorsing DEIA, which is diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility. So there you go. Those are both of the two flavors. So what this resolution is suggesting is adopting a toolkit that Michelle Velasquez Bean and a few others have put together for trying to assess where changes need to be made, both within your own personal teaching style and your own particular curriculum within your discipline, as well as at an institution. And what I included in our plenary resolution is this fillable worksheet that you can all take and figure out where you land. And here's just a page of what it looks like. And what I'll add here, what I think is so crucial and important is that this isn't just about you and your own personal teaching, it's about your institution. Do you have policy and support at an institutional level? And for me, what I'm going to say here is that I think it's time for us to move beyond assuming that if we make a welcoming homepage on our Canvas shell or include a diversity and inclusion statement on our syllabus, we're done. I think we need to hold ourselves at a higher level of accountability, and we need to seriously re-examine our curriculum, and we need to make it really a true and honest change by changing our course outlines of record. That's my personal pitch for you all. But I will say that a lot of folks will say, no, this is a really tension point for me because what you're saying will violate my academic freedom, or it'll violate the Bill of Rights and my right for free speech. These are spurious, false arguments, folks. There's no way in the world that you critically examining your own discipline, the epistemology of your discipline, your practices within your discipline is somehow violating academic freedom. It's quite the opposite, right? Likewise, too, you'll hear people say, oh, well, any kind of idea or DEI work, that is really lessening the rigor of my discipline because it's dumbing things down, as if Shakespeare is calling out from the other side saying, what hast thee doneth to mine own work? I doubt that's what he's thinking, because that is not at all what infusing a more equitable approach in your curriculum, recognizing the multitude of perspectives, the multitude and complexities of our social reality is about. But probably my favorite false argument is that if I make my course more equitable, now my class is not going to articulate to the CSUs or the UCs. And that is not the case. That is not the case. So I'm really going to very strongly encourage us all to take a good hard look in the mirror, use this toolkit, think about your own disciplines, meet with your departments, and change your course outlines of record. How much longer do we want students to wait to be seen and heard and recognized in their classes? They waited long enough. So I don't need to sit here and wait for Title V to somehow catch up. Let's do it now. And with that, because I just waded you through a lot of material, I'll ask if you have any questions. And this picture is for Ruth, who challenged me and said, there's no way you can include a dog and rainbows in your presentation. And I said, I take that dare. So thank you, everybody.
Tara, can you please move on to your bone lecture now?
I could.
So, yeah, I want you to. But a couple of things that you mentioned really resonated with me, and I want to make sure that we loop it back to previous Senate work. The dinosaur find lecture, please. She doesn't do dinosaurs, Anna.
Listen, we had a conversation about this. She knows what I'm talking about. They found an awesome, fully preserved fossil. Wow.
With skin. Yes.
With skin, y'all.
And you guys are like, that's gross. And I'm like, that is so cool.
Yeah. Okay. So going to the beginning, I was really excited to see that the ASCCC's one of their focus was academic freedom. And we've had that conversation here at the Senate. We actually have a resolution, and we were supposed to have an ad hoc committee, and it just never got off the ground. So it's one of the things I need to finalize for the Senate in my last few weeks as Senate president, is to get some faculty development around this. I've also spoken with Justina Buller on bringing academic freedom, professional development to our faculty. Like, I think that we cannot wait on that any longer. Justina's giving me a thumbs up. So if I could share with you what I find so interesting about the ASCCC is this plenary was focused on that and sometimes and how it interfaces with racial justice and our equity conversations. And I much like you in conversations we've had at the Senate previously, I would say that academic freedom is ill understood by academics, and it is only ever brought up when we are told that we have to do something that we don't like, and it's almost always associated with administrative duties of our job, and then we say it's my academic freedom not to turn in my grades. It has nothing to do with academic freedom, right? Or harassing your colleagues. You know, that's my academic freedom. So I do think that we need to get some professional development around this. Not in the let Rayanne call out faculty for not knowing this or using it incorrectly, but to empower faculty in our own disciplines to allow us to be experts in the, let's say, grayer areas of our discipline and speak to that with our students, right? That's really what academic freedom affords us as instructors. It also affords us the right to our own, you know, class materials and pedagogy and things like that. But a big one is being an expert, area content expert, and sharing that wisdom with your students. So I'm really excited that the ASCCC is bringing this into interface with anti-racism work. And the last thing I'll say about this is I've been going to the weekly, they're not weekly, like monthly ASCCC webinars on academic freedom. It's like a 4-part series. And I'll put that in front of the Senate again. I've sent it out previously, probably nobody looked at it and was like, whatever, Ray, but I'll send it out again. I think that this is one of the most important areas that we can engage in. Because I view it as anti-racism work. I view it as equity work. I view it as, you know, a way to address climate change and so many conversations that we're having as humans in 2022. I had a point, and it was to go to those, and I had one more point, and I'm forgetting it. I'm going to remember it like 8 o'clock tonight when I'm doing dishes. I'm gonna be like, oh, it was really important to tell the Senate. So it'll come to me, whatever. Another thing on academic freedom. We gotta get a handle on these acronyms. I like IDEA. IDEA. Yeah, I don't know. You know, we use DI a lot on campus. Now Dr. Murillo's using DIB. There's a lot out there floating around. I'm just gonna put in a plug again. I think we're severely slacking on this one. Clearly JEDI is the superior acronym. A, clearly a Star Wars reference. And also the J starts with justice. So, and I think that that helps ground us why we are talking about this stuff, right? I think from all the tables I sit in, I see people using DI all the time. Like, well, we got to do this because DI. And it's not grounded in a lot other than like, this is the thing that we do right now. And this is the trend. And oh, yeah, we're doing it for students and, you know, but I think JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, although I really like the A as well for accessibility. I do think, so I'm just going to put it out there, we should be using JEDI. Tara, the other thing I wanted to mention to you is it's exciting to see a lot of work at the state level mirror what we're doing here. Those conversations about, you know, the resolutions that we've had here at our local Senate. And I agree with you that we should be bringing those things in and updating our curriculum without a law to be passed, right? So great presentation. You gave me a lot to think about. I had more intelligent thoughts as you were presenting, and I don't remember them. So that's just how it's gonna go. Anyone else, questions, comments, or concerns for Tara, the most amazing and epic delegate ever? No? Really? Okay. All right, so we shall move on. Let's see, that was item, don't remember. Item 7.4. And if you want to take a look at the full resolution packet, it's attached to our Senate agenda. And one kind of heads up for Melanie, who's in the meeting with us as our incoming academic Senate president. These resolutions at the state level can certainly be inspiration for you of what, you know, what's happening at the state, what are they saying at the state, and then bringing back to our campus those conversations. A couple years ago, the state passed several, or State Academic Senate passed several resolutions moving towards zero free textbooks, whatever they're called, free textbooks. And it kind of sort of made it way back to our local conversations. It never really was like the Senate is moving in this direction, faculty should move in this direction. I feel like the state level was much more overt in endorsing that and putting it in front of people, and then it never really trickled back here. So that's why it's so important that we have these time to agendize the resolutions and go through this so that we know what other California community colleges are doing. We can bring that back. We can say, okay, what do we want to work on? What do we want to prioritize? And so just please keep this practice up, Melanie, and it's a really great way to inform yourself as academic Senate president. Okay, bring me to item 7.5. I want to put it in front of folks. I know I emailed this to senators, but it's here on the agenda item as well, in hopes that people see this. And if interested, reach out. So senators, especially those in CTE areas and non-credit, please reach out to your faculty. The ASCCC Career and CTE conference is coming up. It is being scheduled for May 12th through the 14th. It is a hybrid event, both in person, and you can participate virtually. We do have some funds if somebody wants to, if like, let's say a single person wants to attend and or multiple people to attend virtually. So please put this in front of your faculty. Let me know, like in the next week or so, have your faculty let me know if they're interested, and we will get them registered and taken care of. Okay, so the time is now 4:40.
Rayanne?
Yeah.
So just a rough idea maybe about how many people might be able to go? Like last year, I think we had 4. Is that virtually? That is obviously not in person.
Virtually. Yeah, virtually. That would be a reasonable amount. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
I mean, like shoot for that, and then if we fall under, we fall under. But you know, offer it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Coolness. All right, so now we are at item 8.1, an action item that has come back to the Senate. We've had several discussions on this already. And I would like to call for public comment at this time. I know Andrea should be here, maybe, hopefully she's still here. So if she's ready, I'll have her go first. And if there's anybody else here for this item and wants to provide public comment, please raise your virtual hand in your meeting controls now. So Andrea, when you're ready, take it away.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. Thanks for listening to me. I would like to make a case for revisiting the debate regarding Proctorio versus Respondus and make an argument for Proctorio, which I have been using for a number of years with probably hundreds and hundreds, if not over 1,000 students by now. I haven't added that up now. So the question basically is which proctoring service is best. And I know there was a discussion at COI for a while, but this hasn't really been including all faculty that have been using Proctorio. And since I have been an avid user, I'd like to chime in and let you know why I like Proctorio and why I have concerns about Respondus. So the starting point for me is that I feel really dedicated in ensuring that there is academic integrity, just to level the playing field for all students. And in my classes, I give many small assignments, so discussion forums and quizzes that are not proctored, but the larger assignments, the larger exams are proctored. In my exams, most of them include a combination of multiple choice questions and essay questions. And so argument number one in favor of Proctorio is that it is the most secure proctoring service across the board. And unfortunately, and there's a really good LA Times article on this recently, academic integrity violations in online classes have been increasing and are getting more sophisticated. And so my argument here would be that we definitely should equip instructors with the best tool that is available, because if we spend the time on that, and it is time consuming to implement the proctoring and review it, then it really should be worth our time and we should use the best service. And some examples that I can tell you that Proctorio offers that Respondus does not offer is a recording of the screen of the students, student's screen, basically what they're looking at during an exam. And I have unfortunately been dealing with academic integrity violations. It happens every semester. It's not a large percentage of students, but it does happen. And if I want to identify this, it's vital. It has been critical for me to see when a student has been looking away from the exam screen. So looking to see what they're looking at. Are they looking at a multiple choice question? Are they in the middle of an essay? That has been important. Then Proctorio also has the option to do room scans at random intervals during the exam, which is not available through Respondus. So basically, if there is a concern that somebody's violating academic integrity, Proctorio does that. And in terms of the scan, as a side note, that's a slightly different argument, but just to let you know, I emphasize with my students that I'm not really interested in their room. I'm interested in their desk, and they have to show that the desk is clear and that the computer monitor is clear. So then in terms of Respondus, there is a chart that compares Proctorio and Respondus that has been put together by the University of Iowa. So this is not my research, I have to emphasize that, but that table, for example, that compares the two notes that with Respondus, clearing of the cache is not available when you exit an exam. To me, if that's the case, that is a problem. Then audio monitoring is not available with Respondus lockdown. Apparently it is with a monitor. And there's a number of other points of comparisons. So that to the point that Proctorio is the most sophisticated and most secure proctoring service. Then second point would be that Proctorio offers excellent tech support. They're very responsive and easily located. I've had a couple of questions, and you can easily find Proctorio Tech Service if you just type that into Google, Proctorio Tech Service. You find it, there it is, the 24/7. You contact them and you can chat with them. And I have found that my students can easily contact them. The few that have had technical issues are able to contact Proctorio before they start the exam. And looking at Respondus, and again, I'm not the expert on this, but just briefly looking at Respondus has helped us to see what they have. Respondus basically says they have help within the exam pre-steps. But if you run a quick search online to find Respondus tech help, you don't find the place where you can find that easily. It's not easily obtained. I went onto the website, I was directed to click on different places. And to me, that was problematic because just like Proctorio, Respondus has software that needs to be downloaded. So to me, that's a little bit of a problem. Then third argument is the ease of setting up quizzes with Proctorio versus Respondus. With Proctorio, an instructor can indicate their preferences, so how sensitive the system should be with respect to noise in the room or multiple people in the room, keyboard strokes, and then that can be saved in form of a profile and easily imported into the next exam, even across semesters. And so you do that once per semester or even less than that, and you apply to all your exams. With Respondus, you have to indicate your preferences and settings, and for Respondus, it includes the text that's displayed, whether or not students need to show an ID, environmental check, and so forth, for each and every quiz separately. So that seems to me, it's inconvenient, it takes a lot of time, and it's cumbersome for instructors. And then lastly, addressing a few concerns that I've heard regarding Proctorio, even though I haven't been part of the debate, I just heard this, so this is anecdotal. I heard that there have been concerns about tech issues with Proctorio that people have been calling SBCC tech support. So from my experience, and again, this is probably 1,000 students or more, there have been very few students, a very small number of students that have encountered issues. And some of those issues were not linked to Proctorio, but to questions such as internet connectivity not being consistent. So that would apply to any software that we're using. And hardly any cases, I think I can maybe think of one or two that could not be solved. But typically it's sort of like student contacts me, I refer them to Proctorio tech support, and it's done. So I think that is, we can say that we can expect that no matter which proctoring service we use, there are going to be some tech issues. The idea that we switch to something else and we won't have any problems, I think that's an illusion. And then I know that there's a concern, excuse me, that that Proctorio is not compatible with the changes that Canvas is making to its quizzes. And I think that is a concern, but I think there's still some time. And I would say that we should give Proctorio a chance to see if they don't address that problem before we switch away from that. So to summarize, Proctorio, from what I've seen, is the most secure software and the most sophisticated. And Respondus is not as secure. So for those instructors that do spend the time, it does take time to deal with this proctoring, we should have the best tools. Then it has served my students really well. The customer service is easily accessible to students and to instructors alike. It offers good support. Then again, as I mentioned, the idea that if we switch away to different proctoring software that we have no issues is not realistic. And so at a minimum, I'm asking that we don't just switch to Respondus, that we at a minimum revisit this debate and don't make a rash decision. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that informative public comment to the Senate. Any more comments at this time for item 8.1? Okay, I'm seeing none. So now we shall engage in our final discussion around the recommendation coming from COI to move now essentially over to Respondus and move away from Proctorio. As a reminder, we had previous discussions at Senate. Many of the concerns were addressed just now. Many of the discussion points were reflected back to us just now. And I would like to see the Senate finalize this work today. So it's been on our agenda a few times. Last time we wrapped up our conversation, it was noted that the Senate did not move by a formal motion to accept COI's suggestion to move to Respondus or reject it and have our own recommendation. So with that, would anyone like to kick us off? And perhaps a way to be expedient in this work of the Senate is for somebody to perhaps make a motion. And then if there's support, second it, and then we can debate the motion and then vote, accept or reject that motion. Our norm at the Senate has also included a brief discussion period before a motion is made. to, let's say, take the temperature of the Zoom room. Ruth.
So I have a question. Would the motion need to be in favor of it? And if we wanted to, we'd have to vote it down, or can we frame it in a way that it, because everyone knows where I stand on this, where we are not in favor of it and that we give some advice as to how to proceed?
The latter. We can, a motion can be made to reject the recommendation made by Coy and do something else, right? So I think that would be entirely appropriate and what we usually do.
Thanks. I'm just waiting to see if folks have comments.
Yeah, and if people don't talk, I am definitely going to go to sleep. Elizabeth.
Math would at least like to delay the decision until more input has been received and more faculty have seen the options and stuff.
Okay. Math. Margarita.
I'm not a senator, but I had a kid who was very nervous to get into any exams and things like that. So I'm against actually exams, not even proctorio or anything like that. But also had a lot of students who, you know, just with the name, exam, quiz, whatever, get really nervous. I have gotten people who are, how do you call them? People who come from the war, veterans, who, if you tell them you cannot move or things like that, trigger panic attacks. There's a lot of kids who have anxiety disorders or something. You know, all these programs, whichever, trigger anxiety, and they're like really bad for them. So I really would like to have an alternative to them. You know, like, for me, this is like, for example, if you think another thing that will help you to be healthy and good, like being on a diet, trying to prevent diabetes. If you cheat on the diet, it's bad for you. If we tell the kids that, you know, cheating is bad, but if we look at them and we take care of that, then they're not going to be able to do it on their own. You know, nobody's looking at you when you're eating. It's your choice. If someone does it, then it's not going to work. You have to learn how to eat and how to take care of yourself. The same is for them. You know, if we work during the semester and they work and do the exercises and do everything, it's like, oh, let me weight you at the end of the diet to see if you lose weight or not, or whatever. It doesn't matter. If you cheated or not, it's up to you. The same for them. I know that we have requirements for the schools, legal things and all that, but we can present all the work that they have done and avoid, you know, these things, at least not in such a big weight that they have to be so stressed. I'm talking about the stress that causes my students to be in these things. It is so much stress that, you know, they just, I don't know, they decided not to do it. They end up doing a lot of incompletes at the end. I have had 5 incompletes in one summer because of proctorio. It's ridiculous. They are afraid of it. They think they're going to be, I'm going to have someone is behind it, that they're going to tape it, they're going to keep it forever. I don't know what they think. It doesn't matter. It's not good. Neither of them. Thank you. Sorry.
Andrea, I see your hand up. However, we have a norm at the Senate to not allow non-senators to participate during the discussion. Ruth and then Robin.
Margarita, I'm glad you brought those things up. And I'm going to link this to what Tara was saying with that resolution where they actually remove the verbiage with the mandate. I was really happy to hear about that. I do think it shouldn't be a mandate, that it should be, up to the faculty as to what they're doing in their courses. And I also think that this is an argument, what Margarita's saying and what was mentioned earlier by Tara is for us to offer more in-person options, right? Because we have a lot of classes that don't, right? So for example, in economics, I'm really trying to provide options and provide evening options as well for students if they wanted to come in person. But even more importantly, I think, and this may be a little bit more medium run to, no, I wish medium run, maybe long run, solution is we really need to work towards having a testing center. And that's a different situation altogether. But I think all of these things that are being brought up is an argument for that, because I absolutely care about the well-being of our students. And what's being mentioned here is certainly a concern. I would ask faculty to actually work with their students when things like this come up, because we can try to find alternative solutions for some of our students, especially since we don't have a testing center. But I do see that we need this, right? We need this service right now to maintain academic integrity. And again, it's not a mandate for any particular professor to impose or to use.
Thank you, Ruth. Robin?
Yeah, so yes to what was just said about meeting student needs and the need for a testing center. Our division does not typically use Proctorio or another monitoring service, but I really appreciate Andrea's comments and Ruth's comments previously about the workload for instructors of making this change, and how often we're asked to make such a change without consideration of how much additional workload will be imposed on faculty if we do. Given that our division does not use it, I do want to speak in solidarity with the programs that are speaking out for more time and more input on the decision-making process. I also just wanted to mention that when I was liaison to COI, one of the factors in the decision to make the change was financial consideration. And I just wanted to mention that in any financial consideration should also be the number of work hours that instructors will put in making a changeover and learning new software and converting. So yeah, that's it.
So we've heard from folks that are sorry, I'm just confused. We've heard from folks that are, let's say, in favor of at least delaying the conversation, which sounds to me like rejecting COI's recommendation formally, and then perhaps some language in there about we need more time, to figure this out. Is there anyone that, and Robin spoke a little bit to this, but is there anyone out there that hasn't shared that would like to speak in support of COI's recommendation? Silence is always hard to read, so I'm not sure if that's, neutrality, don't care, don't use this, whatever, or if that's no, there are none, or I don't have that feeling. So Ben, please speak to this, share what you have a thought around, and then again, it's 5:01, and I would really love to entertain a motion for Senate to come to some point so that we can, do something and then, get out of here tonight. So Ben, Jenny, and then Ruth.
I know it doesn't help it whether it's for or against, but the business division is good either way.
Helpful to know. Thanks. Jenny?
I feel like I spoke a lot in the previous meeting, so that was my why am I not talking. And I think I was speaking up just having sat in the COI meetings and was trying to previously present some of their perspectives. And I think in Andrea's public comment, she did a good job of rebutting each of those concerns. But just for a quick recap, things I had brought up previously would be that there is an expense. They felt it was manageable to do by summer 1. And concerns about Proctorio being more vulnerable to students' data, et cetera. But I feel, again, like I went over those more detailed last time, but.
Okay, so I have a question. And I know that you went over this previously, but it's 5:03, little unfiltered. Have I mentioned that I only got 2 hours of sleep last night? So excuse the, I don't know, the unpolished way that this comes out, but kind of mind-blowing. I told you, I praised you. Kind of mind-blowing that we're going to switch from Proctorio to Respondus by summer 1, when I continuously hear how understaffed and backlogged IT is, to the point where critical fundamental back end structures at our college aren't necessarily attended to in a timely way, and or SEM and the Senate passed what is it called? An alternative wait list recommendation, 2 years ago now. SEM recommended it out, all these constituency bodies, we went through this whole rigmarole, we debated this whole thing, and it's never been implemented, even though this was student-centered. This would help our students get enrolled, and we're worried about enrollment years ago, because IT is so overworked. So I'm incredibly mind blown that we're going to do this huge change, and we're just doing it. And somehow our summer 1 instructors, after 2 years of living through the rawness that is a global pandemic and continuing college, somehow we're going to learn this new thing, and IT is going to somehow make that happen by, like, I don't even know, May 20th. I mean, that's incredible. And so if that's going to happen, if we support this recommendation, I mean, if that's going to happen, I mean, I'm going to start making a way bigger deal. I don't know what that is.
Oh, never mind.
I think Ben's whispering to his kids. I'm just incredibly impressed that's going to happen. And, like, I'm going to start calling IT more, because, like, they do have time or something. I mean, somewhere somebody thinks that there's time budgeted for this. So interesting to, told you I was unpolished, interesting to think about how there's time for this changeover when there's not time for other things. So I'll just leave it at that. I think I made my point. Ruth and then Ellen.
Sorry, I'm on my phone. So I'm going to move to reject COI's recommendation so that we slow this process down and review this over the next year or 2, or however long it takes. Hopefully not too long to make this decision. And I'm not saying necessarily to transition. So to be clear, the motion is to reject COI's recommendation to slow this process down. And I'm going to recommend that they directly engage with faculty members who use this, to include as many of them, to many, or if not most faculty, especially those who use it or those who are interested in using it, so that they're exposed to the options and features of both, so that this actually comes with faculty support if it does end up happening. And that, yes, that's it.
Thank you, Ruth.
I'll second.
Wait, hold on. I have no idea what you're seconding. Okay, so Ruth made.
I know, I was like, I should stop. So to reject COI's recommendation, so that we slow this process down, and that the Senate recommends that they directly engage with faculty members that are using it or those who are interested in using it.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, good. I'm glad somebody did. I did not, and I am not repeating that. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion, debate on the motion? If not, we shall do a roll call vote. Okay. Let us do that then. Yay. Now okay, I do need to repeat because the motion is in the negative. The motion is to reject the recommendation from COI to abscond Proctorio and adapt Respondus, and recommend that more investigation is done with professors, instructors that are using Proctorio. So the motion is in the negative. So a yes vote affirms rejecting the recommendation. Okay, so you may vote yay or yes, nay or no, or you may abstain. And I believe Robbie Fisher has left the meeting. Prior to the meeting, he alerted me he had to leave early and gave his proxy vote to Jess Estrada. Okay, so Benjamin Reyes.
Abstain.
Counselor Jen.
Yes.
Write this down. Abstains, 1, yes, 1. Ellen.
Yes.
Jenny Baxton.
Yes.
Joy.
Yes.
Dee Dee.
Yes.
Elizabeth.
Yes.
Kathy.
Kathy also let me know she was going to be stepping out for a special meeting at 4.
Got it. Okay. All right, so P is not here to vote. Robin.
Yes.
Jess.
Yes,
Okay. Now Jess for Robbie's vote.
also yes.
Also yes, got it. Ruth.
Yes.
Tara.
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Thanks, Russell. Trisha.
Abstain.
Abstain. And Anna.
Abstain.
Abstain. All right, so motion carries with 12 yes votes, no votes, or let me say 0 no votes, and 3 abstentions. So the motion carries to reject COI's recommendation and to do some more investigative work on who's using these systems and getting their preferences. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call today's Academic Senate meeting. We ran a little bit over, my apologies, but it was important to get that finalized so that we can put a period at it and move on. So thank you for doing that. We do have a meeting next week. I want you to please take a look at item 8.2 between now and then. You haven't already done so. Several different documents. Justina Buller has come here 2 weeks in a row, and we have not gotten to that item. There are some recommendations to overhaul in-service and to do our flex obligations a little bit differently. We'll have that conversation first. And then also she and I are in conversations about how, never mind, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. Then there's more to come after that with other related things. And so the Senate will have those discussions and make a recommendation so that Justina knows what professional development support faculty will need. So homework, read that over, put it in front of your faculty so that they form some kind of opinion, so that perhaps next week we can do some kind of moving on from that item as well. Thank you all. Have a great night. Enjoy the weather, and I will see you all in 1 week. Bye.
Hi, everyone.